sight to the ones who lost their way. There's a place for people like you. I've heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. And I believe when your days down here are through, there's a place up there for people like you. If you walk around with your heart on your sleeve, and if you try to be the change you want to see, if you lay down your life for a love so someone could be saved, there's a place for people like you. I've heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. And I believe when your days down here are through, there's a place up there for people like you. For people like you. For people like you. And I've heard up there the streets are made of gold. And when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, then there's a place up there for people like you. I know you're out there, so keep doing what you do, 'cause there's a place up there for people like you.
Marika, thank you for those beautiful words and that voice right down there. Thank you. Now, we're going to ask Crystal Peter, please come forward to read.
Good morning, everyone. So this scripture will be taken from 1 Corinthians 15, 51 to 57. You can read along. Okay. Behold, I shew you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this incorruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must be put on immortality. So when this incorruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. This is the word of the Lord.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you. Marcia Reed, come forward. She's going to do the remembrance. one who knew Courtney so well.
Before you read the remembrance, can you light that candle on behalf of the family and say you light on behalf of the family? All right, thank you. I light this candle on behalf of the family for Courtney. Good afternoon. Eulogy or remembrance for Courtney Lawrence. Courtney Johnson, affectionately called Rex or Boyas by us, was born on April 6, 1945, to Miss Mabel Bailey, who was later Mrs. Hallin, and Alphonsa Johnson, who are now predeceased. Courtney was born in Savoy Crescent District in the parish of Manchester. At a tender age, Courtney's educational vocabulary started at Middlesex Elementary, where he did his first, second, and third year, after which he took an common entrance because in those times, that's how it was. He passed for the Ministry of Agriculture school located at the Twickenham Park in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. From then, Courtney had to move to Kingston at age 19 to live with his eldest brother, my Uncle Errol. During that time, he went to 2A Cedar Valley Road, Kingston 6, and that's his address until the passing of him. During that time, after finishing his secondary level, Courtney worked at the Ministry of Agriculture along Oak Road. He spent over 40 years there with the ministry as an agronomist and an extension officer. He worked at the St. Thomas location for a while also. He also worked as a landscaper. He was at the U.S. Embassy where over a period of time where he did the landscaping. It was beautiful. He had a certificate to show his works because he plants and trees. Courtney was also a teacher. Courtney lived a strange and private life. Our family didn't understand, but we all worked with his flow. I remember growing up, Courtney would travel to other countries. He went to Israel. I was at primary at the time. He brought back some unusual pencils and ruler for me. When I took them to school, I would show off because they were different, very pretty. And my classmate would say, "Boy, Marcia, you're rich." Even the teacher was fascinated by it because even her wanted my pencil and rulers. Courtney also won a trip to England. He took my older cousin because my mom was afraid to fly, and she still do. Our best time with Courtney was as we call him, Uncle Rex. Holidays. Courtney came bearing gifts. Envelopes. All of us smiling, because as children we felt rich because of the cash inside. Even though we didn't see our Uncle Rex often, at moments of time, you know, when it's family gathering, like funerals and all of that, he's always there to participate in whichever field he could. Even though we didn't see Courtney often, we know for sure if he go to Ligani Plaza, he would be in Starbucks, and most definitely Blue Cafe, because that's his chill spot. He would be there reading and surfing. Because I remember at one time my sister called me and my niece right there said I should come take my uncle out of Blue Cafe because they're closing because the light was turned off. So I turned to them and said, "Look here, maybe you don't know, he's part owner, remember I'm private." Courtney did a lot because he even taught my dad to drive at that time. I was their dedicated passenger because I enjoyed every minute of the ride. There was a lot of things I didn't know about my uncle, like how he was a church member, very dedicated, and as his position as a practitioner, in other words, a minister, here at the Temple Light Center. On August 11th of this year, I was at my gate when a friend said, "Marcy, run, come quickly." So I said, "For what?" He said, "Come." Then I saw Miss Rose. I didn't know her at the time, but they said, I said, "This looks serious." When I went and reached there, Miss Rose, I guess it's her usual checkup. When she went to check on him, she found him unconscious in bushes near to his door. There then, I rushed him to the university hospital at the accident and emergency, after which he was admitted because he had a massive stroke. On August 24th, I got a call from the doctor saying she needed to speak to me urgently. I didn't went. I wasn't feeling good. I sent my niece. By that time, she went. She called me and said, Uncle Rex passed 5:10 a.m. that morning. Courtney survived by his sister, Miss Cynthia Reed, that's my mom. His brother, eldest brother, Uncle Errol, he has a brother, Bill, and my aunt, Curdell. She couldn't make it. She's 103 years. She would if she didn't lost one of her legs. He survived by nieces, nephews, grandnieces, other family and friends. May his soul rest in peace. I would like to extend my thanks to Miss Rose. Because of your checkup, then you wouldn't have found my uncle at that time. From then, Miss Zara Burton, Mrs., I don't remember your name, Miss Zara Burton, with her concern, she came to his address and Miss Rose directed her to me. From then, she let me speak with her mom, Mrs. Cynthia Burton, a very good friend of my uncle. And from then, I got a call from the Reverend Ann from this church here, from Temple of Light, and this is how our connections went on. Mrs. Burton was a friend indeed. I thank you, Reverend Ann, for your continued calls and words of comfort. On behalf of myself and Courtney's family, a big thanks and appreciation for your support. And we appreciate everything that you have done, the communication, the planning, everything. May God bless you all, and I hope we continue having a relationship because of Courtney. Thank you.
What a lovely, lovely remembrance. And you know what is beautiful? I am sure half of us in here are hearing a lot of it for the first time. Yeah? So don't feel no way, right? Now that we have found each other, please, we will not part, right? We expect. Somebody else wanted to. Oh, family tribute time anyway. There is more. We are ready for the family tribute.
No, I would just like to take time out to thank Mr. Little, my former MP over there for Eastern St. Andrew, Andre Hilton. Thanks for your support. Mr. Little is a councillor candidate for Eastern, for Mona Division. So I just want to thank them for their support. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the only other little secret that we don't know about Courtney is that maybe he was a politician too, right? Yeah. It soon come out. It soon come out. Oh, lovely, lovely. What a lovely family. Oh, my gosh. No. Family tributes. All of you? All right, let's hear it. Who is going to come first? Come on up. Come on up. We have a space left for those who want to come and express themselves. Yes, man. Yes. Come. We want to know all of you.
Good morning, church. Good morning. I know Marcy uncle for a very long time, but lately I know that he was connected to Marcia. I know Marcia a long, long time, because I was working at National Sideways, and he came there one morning and went in the kitchen and sat and asked me if I could give him a cup of tea, but at the same time, there was the manager who called on the phone asking for a cup of coffee. So I said to him, say, just hold a minute, I'm going to serve the manager a cup of coffee. So when I came back, I asked him what type of tea he want. He said, don't worry, don't bother. He was such a funny man. Yes, but he was okay. He never passed anybody and said, how are you? Yeah. He was so friendly.
Yes.
So I say to the family, cheer up. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you. Yes. Say your name.
I heard it's still morning, so good morning, church. Okay. As everyone has been saying, he's a very private fellow. I attend the Providence Methodist Church, and sometimes we have our little functions, and he would drop by. I remember one morning we were having a jumbo sale, and he came and he looked and he looked. What all them things here? Some say shirt and pants, and then you must go buy shirt and pants. Some say, but you're here, so he pick out something. So he said, all right. So he picked out a few items. So he said, how much for these now? So I gave him a price. What? What? You don't hear what I say? I said, how much for these now? So I said, you don't hear what I say? I said, such and such. Hold on a minute. Same time another person came. He looked at the person. He looked at me. You're talking to him? I was like, huh? I said, if you're talking to him. I said, no, I'm talking to you. So he said, why is he standing here? I said, because he wants to buy something too. So he put them down and he walked away. I said, coming back. Just check them up and tell me. He looked in his wallet, went away and come back. I'm ready to pay for it now. How much for it? I said, the same price. He just took out what he had in his purse and just gave it to me. I said, all right. So I said, don't get a bag. I said, with that money that you just pay me. So, but that's how he is, a very private person and a very direct person. He's not going to go around you. So he took my number and said, listen out for my call, you know, because next time when having these things, you must call me. So I said, all right. So he took the things and he said, thank you. I said, this church, you know that I'm familiar with this church and all those ministers, you know, I know all of them, you know. At that time, we had Catherine Gale at the church. I said, I know her a long time. I know all of these ministers. And he looked, this place is a place that I walk all the time. But as Marcy says, it's always in Blue Cafe or Starbucks. I always see him and I just keep on walking. But Courtney was a very pleasant fellow if you get to know him. Very, very pleasant. And he'll smile, but he don't smile with everybody. I can tell you that. He doesn't smile with everybody. And you have to know how to speak to him. You can't come and, what happened, Courtney? No, he's not going to respond to you. You have to speak to him in an intellectual way, and then he'll have a conversation with you, because he don't have no arbitrary conversations. And that's how he is, and that's how I remember him.
Ah, Thank you. Proud, proud African. And what Courtney wants, Courtney gets. Nice telling about him. Yeah, man. Good. Anybody else? You got your opportunity. Oh, that's the politician. Okay.
Good morning, church.
Good morning, sir.
Politicians don't say a mic and miss the opportunity, you know. But I know Marcia very well, and I know Courtney a little. But interesting, as Martha said, I never know that Courtney was related to Marcia. But I've met him quite a few times because while as Member of Parliament in Easter and St. Andrew, I visit all the different places in the constituency. So I got to the supermarket there, I got to KFC there, I got to Starbucks there, and I've always seen Courtney. And one day I started having a conversation with him, and we got into a conversation about agriculture. And I realized this man is not a normal man. He's a very deep person. So since that, every time I met him, I wanted to have a conversation with him because I learned so much from him. But he's so unassuming. And as Martha said, him not chat up to people, but if he gets into a conversation and likes how you speak, he will give you his best. But I found him to be a simple but great human being. And I'm very saddened that now I'm back into Easter and helping out again, that I won't have the privilege of conversing with him. And for the persons who are here younger, as a colleague, as a councillor candidate, he's a little young. But we must try to learn from our elders. If we could have downloaded Courtney's brain into a computer, have it. And some of you here who are over 50 need to start recording things for the next generation because you all possess such wonderful knowledge. And Courtney was one of those persons. He will definitely be missed by me because every time I see him, I go sit down beside him, see if I can get some more information out of it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All the same, though, you know, if you had made him your campaign manager, you would still be my MP, right? Missed opportunity. Okay, so it's a family, rest of the family is shy, well represented, right? So, we don't have anybody from TM? No. Nobody from TM. Anybody want to bite the bullet from TM? No? No, okay. Where? Oh, yeah, Yvonne, come. Okay. TM means transcendental meditation. She will tell you.
Yes. Good morning. Still is? Yes. I'm Yvonne Chang Oliver, and I'm a member of this church and a fellow practitioner with Courtney. When we needed help at Holy Trinity High School, they started a TM program, and we asked meditators to come in and assist, especially during our quiet time meditation period. And Courtney was one of those who volunteered first up, right? Now, everybody knows that Courtney is very talkative if it is something that a topic that he enjoys. He loved to meditate, and he was always willing to talk to those students and let them know what it means to be quiet and what it means to get centered. Getting centered means that, and when he does it a special way. He would say, you must close your eyes or shut your eye, right? Because this is how the children talk. You must shut your eye, right? And so he would explain And then he would go through the routine of telling them, right, that being centered, being quiet, you get into yourself and you identify with that God presence that is within you, right? And so I will remember Courtney for those times at Holy Trinity when he came just for 10 minutes every day for a period to be with the children and just sit in that classroom and just meditate with them. I would remember Courtney for the days that we always had arguments, right? Courtney is very persistent. Anything that he believes, he holds on to, right? And you can't change his mind, right? But it's okay. That was Courtney. And we interacted a lot at our, first Wednesday, we would do meditation, the labyrinth meditation by walking in the garden, back there. And he was just always present. He loved it. And the other thing I remember about Courtney, right, is that if he decides that he's going to do something, maybe only God can tell him that him not to do it, you know? So I love him in my own way. Courtney was not a very lovable person, right? But at the same time, he was genuine. You knew where you stood with him, and I will miss him. Walk good, Courtney, until such time.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. And Yvonne also is a meditation teacher. Okay, good. Now, everybody's losing their shyness. Okay?
Yes.
Counselor?
Yes.
Counselor?
Yeah.
You're the counselor?
The counselor candidate.
Oh,
You know, it's not all the while that you go to whether a remembrance or a Thanksgiving service and you say it's good to be here. But in hearing all of the tributes, something actually struck me. And I wanted to just start in saying that when I heard Comrade Hilton saying that he knew Marcia a lot and Courtney a little, I thought he was also going to say, that it seems as if there are certain traits that Courtney had that Marcia has actually taken over. That private part of Courtney seemed to be very much within Marcia. I don't know if you realize that, but I suppose you're one of the apples that fell off the tree. But I wanted to maybe mention something. Courtney was in fact really who you would call a gentle giant. And like Comrade Hilton, I've had my interaction with Courtney as well, 1 or 2 times, and you would never know from him that he was so connected and that he had this family, this wider family around him. And when I came here this morning, I've seen some individuals who I've not seen in donkey's years, as we will say. But it is really tribute to the man. It really is tribute to the man. Because when you touch the lives of people, it makes an impact, if it's even one time. And that was what it was for Courtney with me. And I always say this when we come to these times, that what we really need to do is to cherish those moments. Look at who Courtney was and see what in Courtney that I can be. And as we go through this very turbulent time in this country, one of the things that we can easily take is that sense of maybe peace and balance in our lives, where it is so important that we understand that we can't be just going at what we say the rat's race pace, But there are times that we have to just settle, cease and settle, and remember that God is there.
Thank you, Reverend Counselor. Very good, very good, very good. Okay, so now it's our time at the Temple of Light, right? And we're going to invite Jennifer Livingston, who knows him in many different ways, to come forward and share what we, the practitioners of the Temple of Light, feel about him.
Good afternoon, church. Welcome to the temple. On behalf of the practitioners of the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living, I'd like to read this tribute that we have put together for Courtney. And as I read it, it's a message from each one of us individually, and we have put it together. It was put together by Carol Campbell, so let me give her the credit for that. So as you listen, you can probably figure out who said what, if you know us very well. So here goes. Good morning, art. Don't you know you're a piece of artwork? This usual greeting, though I secretly found it flattering, often got a response of a rolling of the eyes. Courtney was not in the least bit perturbed at my response and would greet me again the next Sunday with the same words and the same knowing chuckle. He did not take things personally. Courtney, the quintessential teacher, always took the time to compliment the beauty without and within. He was persistent and consistent, a lovely and loving soul who taught us the art of unconditional love, demonstrating the principles of science of mind in every way. Courtney had a heart of pure gold. His guileless and genuine spirit held a mirror to my soul, revealing the darkness of judgment and nurturing the light of acceptance and understanding. A brilliant mind, a student of life who enjoys the mystery of living, Courtney achieved a level of self-mastery which allowed him to always choose peace and love over dissent, worry, and materialism. Courtney was a perpetual student who seemed to have an intense desire to pursue every branch of learning he encountered. He needed to grasp truth in all its dimensions and sought to justify everything, applying an uncommon level of analysis which was often irritating. He was stubborn and argumentative, but so very helpful, especially when he shared his perspective on what science of mind meant to him. I always called him Mr. Perspective. He can find innumerable ways to look at every issue. I will miss our arguments. Oops. I meant discussions, and late night calls. Yet, his inclusive approach to what we will miss is what we will miss most. Because at the end of the day, his kind, loving, congenial, peaceful spirit is what we will carry forward on our own journey. He has left us many lessons to contemplate. I will miss our interactions at Prayer Power and the leadership role he initiated at our monthly Labyrinth meditation sessions. Courtney was everywhere, yes, at all my work and events, lectures, including within the sphere of my work as a doctor, and was well known among the health sector. We also bucked up at supermarkets and cafes in the Ligonier area, consistently High-Low Supermarket, Wendy's, and especially Cafe Blue. At closing time, We jokingly called him the omnipresent. All is indeed well with my friend. Bless you, Courtney Johnson. Walk good, Courtney. Till such time, may good Duppy walk with you. Rest well in love. Peace be still. On behalf of the practitioners of the Temple of Light, thank you.
Wasn't that beautifully done? Can you imagine? We have 12 practitioners all wanted to say something, and it was threaded so beautifully. No wonder it was threaded by someone who's also a jeweler, all right, who can thread things together so well. You have something else? Okay. Aha. Wanting to come up? Okay, representative from UCT? Toastmasters, right? The Toastmasters within UCT. Right? Where are you? Please come. Come forward. Universal Center for Better Living, right? Is that no? Right. Up truths for better.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, church. I'm waiting on the president of the club. I am the immediate past president. Nobody has said that Courtney was a Toastmaster.
Yes, he said it.
Okay, yes. In 2002, the UCT Toastmasters Club was chartered, and Courtney was a charter member. He was a very active member of the club and represented us at club and area contests and won gold for the club. Yes, yes. He was very, very articulate, and you couldn't stop him when he started to argue.
Okay, yes. I found him to be very intellectual and very analytical. We have something in Toastmasters where we give evaluation. We are always giving feedback on everything that happened in the club, especially prepared speeches. And when Courtney gives you feedback, you get very good, helpful feedback. And you learn so much when he speaks. He was so knowledgeable, well-read, phenomenal. And, yes.
And so on behalf of the UCT Toastmasters Club, we wish him well as he takes up his new assignment on the next level of his journey.
Oh, it's afternoon now. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of the Jamaica Association for Training and Development, now known as HERMAJ, Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica. And I speak about the man, Courtney Johnson. Courtney was never one to miss a meeting and was a regular at annual conferences of HERMAJ Jatad. In fact, whether it was food for the mind or food for the body, Courtney would go to great lengths to find the resources to facilitate his registration so he could be present in his infamous red jacket. The old-time Jatad HERMAJ persons can remember the red jacket. It was not surprising then that he served on one particular committee convened to plan a workshop entitled Claim Your Wealth. Courtney could generate resources just so. That's another conversation. He was a faithful follower of matters involving human resources. Jatad co-founder Ilsa Duvernay recalls that once when she was baffled about how to treat an organizational development issue, all she had to do was to put the case to Courtney, and voila. He would succinctly and without hesitation generate an immediate and workable solution. In 1993, Jatad orchestrated the Masters in Psychology and Human Resource Development through the University of Cincinnati. There are a number of us who participated. I see two persons here. I see Jeanette Bartley-Bryan. I see Marva Zimenez. There is myself. And there's Clive Edwards. I don't think Clive, yes, Clive is here. Okay. And of course, Courtney was a member of that experience. But he was perhaps one of the first to register. But unfortunately, he was unable to complete the program. But not to be deterred by what he described as some insignificant piece of paper. He would often say, you know, I have my master's too, you know. And it was hard to doubt that, as with his phenomenal memory recall, he would proudly quote scholars, professors, and writers, and wax prolifically about paradoxes, processes, and protocols. Well, we heard that he was a past employee of the Ministry of Agriculture, but his passion for nature, agriculture, and the land was just deeply, deeply ingrained in him. He got energized and excited when he talked about these topics, often postulating on the intricacies of agronomy, holding fluent conversations with senior officials and ambassadors of foreign lands and so on about, you know, the topic of the land. He knew every tree, every flower, every plant, and he would tell us all about them. Courtney was very proud of his role here, and this is coming from an HR person who knew of the work he did here. He was delighted to be a practitioner and would often share his own affirmations at Hermage meetings, one of which was, peace, be still. Peace, be safe. Peace, be whole. HR luminaries such as Professor Neville Ying remembers Courtney with very fond memories. Then there's Dr. Lloyd Eubank Green, who remembers him as someone who had a wealth of information about any topic in HR, and that he described him as better than a textbook. While Dr. Nsombe Jaja says that he leaves such a rich legacy of love and grace. Courtney was spiritually grounded by faith, and despite adverse situations, he always gravitated to the positive perspective. Ilse Duvernay wraps it up when she says that, and I quote, sometimes disheveled and unkempt, Courtney had a depth that was often not easily identifiable. A bit of Albert Einstein in disguise. He was wise, deep, caring, empathetic, practical, a great comforter, full of spiritual wisdom, positive. He had a third eye. He was humble, misunderstood, lived by faith, loved deeply, and blessed with strong, strong discernment. He led without leading, was never judgmental, always affirming, loved his Creator and the earth. I will miss his wise counsel, a true friend in word and in deed. Forever in the light, may his soul rest in eternal peace.
Mrs. Burton, on behalf of Ministry of Agriculture and 40 years friendship, Courtney's best friend, your time now.
Why do I not weep today? Courtney would not have wanted that. Courtney always said, I celebrate life. And so, even though we were close friends, he never would want to know that on such an occasion, there would be weeping, but rather celebration. And so, Courtney, today we celebrate your life for what it was. Courtney and I met in 1972 when I joined the Ministry of Agriculture. And We have been close friends all those years. His first vocation was an agricultural extension officer. That was his longest stint. And throughout the time, he also became the project manager for the Paul Bogle Skills Training Center, where he influenced and mentored a number of youths in the parish of St. Thomas. Courtney's last assignment was the assistant curator of the Hope Gardens. And so that was where he left the Ministry of Agriculture. We were very close friends. We shared two things together that we loved. We loved cafes and coffee. So we would have long conversations over coffee. And those who remembered McDonald's in the old days, I remember when I was in the real estate department, Courtney and I would meet every morning at McDonald's. I was going through a serious illness at the time, and Courtney was the one who encouraged me through that period, that difficult period of my life. And so I've always remember those days. Then I remember his involvement in her march. Courtney always took his responsibilities seriously and was always a member of the conference committee. So those of you who didn't know, he was actually one of the founding members. I was the first treasurer, and Courtney was right there. This was before he got his master's degree. Many people didn't know that, he actually skipped the bachelor's. He was so bright he could go straight and do the master's degree. And so that is something that we should always remember him for, that he was very, very bright and would always refer to her much as his dear soul and spirit. Then I remember Courtney in 1985 when I launched my landscaping company. Courtney was there beside me all through it, from the launch right through. And also at the time, I was involved in farming. And I remember Courtney and I would travel. This farm was all the way in St. James. And Courtney and I would travel to the farm, the coffee farm, get the spraying done, and be traveling home at 2, 3 in the morning. And I remember one particular incident when Courtney was driving, and when we got into a certain section near the Bernard Lodge estate, we saw this woman dressed in white with a suitcase beside her on the side of the road. And Courtney, being the person he is, started to slow down. And I had to say to him, "Courtney, that must be a duppy or a gunman." So with that was one of the incidents that stood uppermost in my mind. Those mornings coming in at 3, 4, another morning we witnessed a gun shooting by one of the parliamentarians. So I remember that very well. One of the things that I must talk about is in 1986, Courtney presented me with a plaque for my birthday. And I framed that plaque. The plaque had a banana in it, and it said, "Today you are special. May all your future birthdays be the same." And so I have that plaque on my living room table even today. So, Courtney, I'll never forget your advice. Whenever I was sick, you always said, "Keep up." Nothing will hurt you, nothing will harm you. And so I know that today, as we look at this function today, you would want us to celebrate life, which is what you celebrated most. Courtney, with this, I wish you well on your next step of the journey.
A true friend, a true friend. That was so beautiful. Thank you, Mrs. Burton, so much. And I think the last person we have to speak is Doreen Mallet. And she has to speak because that is the upstanding ministry of our temple that has continued for years. Oh, she's here. There she is. Okay.
Good afternoon. The ministry referred to is the Ministry of the Environment. I have been a member of it for years and years, and I have always known Courtney to be the president. I think he might have been the founding president, I don't know, but I've always known Courtney to be the president, and he was never to be moved from that position. Okay, so the presentation from the Ministry of Environment is a compilation of little sayings from other members of the association. And so I will ask the technical people to start running it, and we can read it. Can I turn it around? Oh, can I turn it up? All right, can you start running it? Courtney, we honor you. This is Courtney. We're Courtney talking. Hello, friends. I'm Courtney, practitioner, Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living, agriculturalist, MOE founding president, Labyrinth Walk support minister, all-rounder, always available for temple service and support. And of course, you have all heard the other engagements that Courtney had. This came to us from Case. It was, let me see, and it's on your pink paper. It's from the immediate past president. Let me quickly read it. Old farmer Courtney gave over 4 decades of unstinting, committed, and dedicated service to the Jamaican agricultural sector. After graduating from the Jamaica School of Agriculture in 1967 with a diploma in general agriculture, he spent most of his career working as an agricultural extension officer at the Morant Bay Area Land Authority of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. He later worked as the manager of the Paul Bogle Skills Training Center, Morant Bay, St. Thomas. His last assignment was as the Assistant Superintendent of the Division of Public Gardens, Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Hope Gardens. Courtney was an ardent and active participant in the agriculture-related seminars and workshops, as well as his attendance at homegoing services for faded members of the fraternity. May his soul find eternal peace and rest at a place where the light will perpetually shine upon him. And that is from Case. Okay, now. Yes, but I have to come down here so I can read it. So let me turn it back. Okay, fine. All right. Minister of Environment. Courtney made it his duty to see to it that chairs were appropriately set under the neem tree for the 3rd Sunday meeting of the MOE members. Okay, then the next number of slides will come from specific members of MOE. This is from China Robinson. Courtney, thanks for welcoming me to the temple temple grounds and introducing me to the Minister of Environment. Thanks for saving that Julie mango for me when I visited this Easter. Your way was the inclusive way. Thank you for being you. This is from Lilith Nelson, who's sitting somewhere there. Some words spring to mind as I think of Courtney. Ubiquitous, incorrigible, ardent, unflappable, undaunted. That was our Courtney, and oh, how we will miss him. Doreen Mallet, who is that? I'm not sure. Courtney will always be my friend, and I know that I continue to be his friend. When I want to commune with Courtney, I can always close my eyes and remember. Shirley, Courtney's brain moved faster than his mouth, and he often seemed to be stammering, but he always ended up saying something profound. He was always true to himself. And this is from Jilu. I will remember Courtney as someone inhabiting his own world, a divergent thinker who often led in directions that involved different and novel aspects of a particular subject. Someone with intense and dedicated attention to the task, and also a person who found comfort in the act of being himself. Oh, by the way, Courtney loved, hi, Jilu. Courtney loved Labor Day. So a number of the pictures that you'll be seeing will be Labor Day pictures. He always had everybody else planned for Labor Day. All right, Idel. 5 points from the mandate of the temple's Minister of Environment as developed by Courtney. First, to render the place beautiful, thus attracting congregants in addition to local, regional, and even international visitors. And we did attract visitors. Second one, treat the space as a beautiful package, inspiring the unwrapping and the learning of the teachings of Science of Mind. Third, to inspire all to use the environment as a metaphor for God in which we live, move, and have our being. Fourth, encourage spiritual retreating within our environment, the use of meditation garden plus the labyrinth garden. And fifth, contribute to the internal ambience of the temple. Adela sent her apologies for not being here. Debbie, Courtney danced to his own life's rhythm with his love of the environment and those he shared space with. Courtney's spirit and his approach to life reminds us that life is too short to be taken too seriously, and that sometimes the more profound moments are found in the simplest of joys. We give thanks for having had the opportunity to know Courtney, and we remember his resilience and his willingness to always show up. The temple gardens, the labyrinth, and in particular, the neem tree will whisper his name. Marcia Queryford. Hi, Marcia. Courtney never left me out. For as long as I could remember, Courtney attended every meeting, workshop, and conference in Jamaica, as long as it had something to do with the environment. We met again when I started attending Temple of Light in the early 2000s. Through his insistence, and we all knew that Courtney could be persistent, I worked alongside him and other members of the Temple family in the Ministry of Environment. Labor Day was one of his greatest loves, and he insisted that I participate even after I no longer attended the temple on a regular basis, and especially during the COVID pandemic when the activities were online. He always kept in touch and kept me up to date with the activities of the temple. Courtney never left me out. MOE, memories don't leave. And we certainly have laughable ones, meaningful ones, teachable ones. Courtney, we continue to love you. From all of us, the Ministry of Environment. And these are pictures of Courtney as a support minister from Labyrinth. Courtney's interests were wide and varied. He took an active part in many endeavors: hiking, horticultural events, agricultural workshops and shows, a variety of agricultural seminars, astronomical society. He was always there to say goodbye at the passing of a friend, a colleague, a friend's friend, or family member. He cherished the spirit of togetherness. And these are some of the pictures depicting the Courtney we know. You can show the next. Courtney liked to pose for his photos. And here he is posing. In fact, this was at the funeral of my brother. And there was Courtney. Well, and here he is posting under the mango tree. Courtney loved mangoes, as he did all other ... I think that's it. Courtney, the indomitable.
What a whole heap of tribute. My only regret is that Courtney would love to have been here to hear all of them. Can you imagine him standing right over by that speaker box and taking in everything? Another one. Last lap. Last lap. Okay. Wow. Isn't that wonderful? That's everybody just wants to express. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. That's okay. I'm Zara Burton. Good afternoon. And my tribute is more of an apology because Courtney Johnson was a really annoying person to me. Throughout my life, as long as I've known myself, I've known Courtney Johnson. And I've always thought that Courtney Johnson would forever be a part of my life. But he was so eccentric that I would get so annoyed with his eccentricity. He was my mom's really, really, really good friend. And the good thing about our interactions over the years was that even though I felt maybe annoyed or like, Mr. Johnson, it was always one of, okay, I'm going to help him. I'm going to help him with what he's requesting. And the truth is that my mom would invite him to Christmas dinner every single year. And every single year, I had to take Courtney Johnson home. And I did. And even when my mom was not able to communicate with him because she wasn't well, the person he would call was me. How is Mrs. Burton? And I would say, Mr. Johnson, why can't you call Mommy directly? And he would say, all right, I tried to reach her, but I can't. So how is she though? And this went on and on. And Mr. Johnson never was deterred. He always called, how is Mrs. Burton? And when you think about that kind of level of loyalty, it is something to be emulated. And one of my last interactions with Mr. Johnson was when I was so annoyed with him at this particular juncture because I had had an interaction where somebody in Sovereign was begging me some money or whatever. Anyway, the guy took away my bread. He asked me for it, but tugged it away. And I said, all right. And then Mr. Johnson said, you seem to be in a mood of giving. Can I get some money or something like that? I said, Mr. Johnson, I am not taking any money to give you, right? You have NIS to go and collect, and you won't sign up to go and collect the NIS, and you have the nerve to be asking me for money? No, right? Anyway, after that, I called him up the following week. Mr. Johnson, when are you going to go and collect your NIS? When are you going to sign up? You have years of service with the government. Mr. Johnson, well, you know, I don't really like. I said, Mr. Johnson, I will take you, right? I said, why don't you want to go and get your NIS so that you're better off financially? Mr. Johnson said, you know, I don't like the tone of the form. And I said, are you kidding? I said, Mr. Johnson, I'll take you next week, okay? Because you're going to sign up for the NIS. Now, how did Mr. Johnson, who is mommy's friend, become my... You know what I'm trying to say? I don't know, but somehow I always had to keep looking out for Mr. Johnson. It's like I inherited Mr. Johnson. And then mommy called and said nobody can find Mr. Johnson. And of course, I was about to do a surgery that week. And I couldn't break immediately. But then the following day, went up after working out at the dam, and I said, let me go ahead and look for Mr. Johnson. And I did go, and sadly, I heard from Miss Rose, who is his neighbor in the community or in the house area that he lives in, that Mr. Johnson had fallen flat on his face, was out, I think, for more than a day in the backyard, and now was in the hospital up at UE. And of course, I was sad about it. I was really, really, really sad about it. And I said, Mommy, he's at the hospital. That's where he is. He had a stroke. And at that point, Miss Rose put me on to Marcia. And so I just want to say, I couldn't go and see him, and that was a regret of mine. But I remember that there was a prayer that I had, and I don't know if it's the wrong prayer or the right prayer, but I just remember Mommy telling me the condition he was in at the hospital, and I remember praying to God and saying, Lord, Mr. Johnson wouldn't want to live that way. And I said, Lord, if he's going to keep being that way, which would be not a good thing, I'm asking you to take him sooner rather than later. That was my prayer. So maybe it's the thing I need to apologize for. I don't know. But what I do know is Mr. Johnson was a friend of my mom. Mr. Johnson was a constant in our lives. Mr. Johnson had some ways that were amazing that everybody, each of us would emulate. And the reason I can tell you that today, maybe all the wrongs that I did, is that he knew all of them and he still kept coming. And that was Mr. Johnson. And I want to thank him for his role in my life. Most of all, I want to thank him and respect him for the role in my mother's life. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful from the heart, full of passion. Woo! Wow, 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 nice icing on the cake. And you know, we had a full spectrum of all variety of expressions and knowing of Courtney. I believe that Courtney was able to do that because he had practiced so often to live in what I call transcendence, to go within to that quiet place. See all that chatting and all of that and bombastic thing? He spent hours per day in quiet as a requirement of a meditator. I met him when we both learned transcendental meditation in 1981. And later on, the advanced meditation program called the City Program in 1984. And that's why I chose this song, because I believe that he had practiced the art of stepping away from turmoil within his own mind, turmoil around him, and going within to that secret place of the Most High. And in that place, that is a field of all possibilities. He can bring out of that field whatever he allowed to come forth. So the song I chose is not about a physical space. It is, but I choose to interpret it differently. It's called How Lovely Are Thy Dwellings. How lovely are thy dwellings, O Lord of hosts. My soul longeth, yea, fainteth for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Yea, a sparrow hath found her house, and the swallow a nest where she may lay her young. Even thine altars, even thine altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. O Lord God of hosts, hear my prayer. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in the tent of wickedness. For a day in thy courts is better than 1,000. How lovely are thy dwellings, O Lord of hosts. My soul longeth, yea, fainteth for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Yea, a sparrow hath found her a house, and the swallow a nest where she may lay her young. Even thine altars, even thine altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my Carol Campbell, practitioner.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm reading from the Science of Mind textbook written by Dr. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science. Man is an eternal destiny, a forever expanding principle of conscious intelligence. Man, the real man, is birthless, deathless, changeless. and God as man in man is man. The highest God and the innermost God is one and the same God. And so we prepare not to die, but to live. The thought of death should slip from our consciousness altogether. And when this great event of the soul takes place, it should be beautiful, sublime, a glorious experience. As the eagle freed from its cage soars to its native heights, so the soul, freed from the home of heavy flesh, will rise and return unto its Father's house, naked and unafraid. And so it is.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you all. It's only Courtney could, our church normally has our services for an hour and a half. Eh? It's going near 2 hours. Only Courtney one could do that. I'm just wrapping up, and you're going to hear statements made in this tribute from Reverend John, who was Courtney's teacher as well, and what has been said. It's a tribute to Courtney Johnson. And on behalf of Reverend John or Reverend Michelle Senegal, who's our senior minister, and I acknowledge the presence of Reverend Marjorie Linton, the senior minister for Unity, and I know there are members of UFBL here representing Reverend Sheila McKeithen, another organization that Courtney visited and had lots of friends. All right? We acknowledge you on behalf of the members and the Board of Trustees of this temple, Courtney's spiritual home, and our prayers and support for the family, friends, and associates of Courtney. Reverend John said, Courtney challenged our deepest held values, and second only to our beloved Reverend Elmer Lumsden, I believe he was our greatest teacher. So I've used his name as an acronym for the lessons his unique, one-of-a-kind presence taught us both individually and as a community. C for consciousness. Courtney's consciousness was unsullied by ideas of lack, limitation, or separation from God. Once I said to him, just put out 12 chairs for the Tuesday evening spiritual mind healing service. We don't usually get more than that. He put out double the amount and said, Rev, don't you want more people to come? That evening, well, more than the 12 turned out. Lesson learned. Omniscience, you notice, Reverend Sonia, omniscience for O. The practitioner of religious science was not only widely read, but widely traveled. Israel and all about UK, he will sit and tell you everywhere that he went. He was known for his circumlocution, but if you would just be patient, you would glean deep wisdom on subjects as diverse as agriculture and quantum physics. Ubiquitous, the science of mind and spirit teaches that God is everywhere equally and evenly present. So was Courtney. He somehow managed to be at events near and far, and sometimes two concurring functions, and yet he never once neglected his self-chosen assignment of configuring the seating of our services and events. Reverence. Courtney evidenced a deep reverence and respect for all nature. His chairmanship of our Ministry of the Environment, his dedication to the beautification of our grounds, and his far-sighted vision of this beautiful property's potential have been truly inspiring. Tolerance. Perhaps the greatest lesson I learned from Courtney was tolerance. Indeed, acceptance. One Sunday afternoon, a homeless woman joined our Sunday afternoons for a change session. As you may imagine, she was not very nice to be near. Well, our sessions always ended with us holding hands in a circle, and when that time came, Courtney unhesitatingly reached for the woman's hand, thereby setting the example for the entire group. Thanks to him, many of us have learned to look past physical appearances to see the Christ in others. Non-judgmental. Akin to tolerance was his non-judgmental nature. No matter how harsh the criticism leveled at him, he never retaliated with words that were pejorative or condemnatory. He embodied the Master's admonition in Luke 6, verses 36 and 37. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. End of quote. Enigmatic. Courtney was mysterious and was difficult to interpret and understand. He was exceptionally private, so few, if any of his church family, knew anything of his relatives or where or how he lived. He used to test my last reserves as a learning facilitator when he was a participant in a class that was asked to reveal something personal about themselves. Instead of sharing, he would link the subject to something Emerson had said and give a mini lecture on the Johari window, which ironically deals with the subject of self-disclosure. I often said that every minister and practitioner in training should be required to have Courtney in at least one unit of Science of Mind classes because he could channel his awesome knowledge while keeping the class on track. You are ready to be a truth teacher. Which brings me to the why of Courtney. Why signifies yielding to inner wisdom. He always followed the guidance of spirit and was undaunted by the opinions of man whose breath is in his nostrils. You know that quote. There's a song in our Science of Mind hymnal titled Why, which might well be his parting words to those of us whose lives he touched. Listen with your heart. And I got those two, at least the first two chapters of that song, because it really sums up who Courtney is and stands for and what you're going to learn. If you haven't learned anything about, I am asking you to just take home some of the thoughts that you have heard about Courtney, because believe it or not, it will impact your life. The hymn goes like this: why be filled with all thy worry? Why be filled with all thy doubt? Why should we go hurry-scurry and in circles race about? God within shall ever guide us and forever holds the key. Why should we let darkness hide us when the light will set us free? Verse 2, why be filled with indecision? Why be tied up in a knot? Why not seek the inner vision that's revealed in quiet thought? As his truth and love decide us, making purpose clear and strong, varied ways shall not divide us, and our heart will sing a song. And a part of the third verse reads, may good cheer fill thy being, and the joy of life be thine. May direction of our seeing find the power of God divine. With assurance now behold it, as our voice in song we raise. May direction of our seeing find the power of God divine. With assurance now behold it. So friends, as we move the direction of our thoughts through prayer, which is a result of the expansion of consciousness, our awareness must be uplifted by God divine. And if you notice, the family had asked for a particular scripture, 1 Corinthians 15, and I'll read verse 54 to 55. So when this corruptible shall have put on corruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? End of quote. So friends, Courtney is trying to tell us that the death of indecision, worry, doubt, the darkness of the grave of a life without an inner vision of its unity with the power of God divine. So friends, we must look towards that power of God that is within. And Courtney says it is through a quiet mind that we can develop all that. Jump to verse 58. It says, "Be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord." End of quote. Your labor on this plane of existence was not in vain. So many lives Courtney has touched. He's a living legacy. He will continue to live in our spirits. And most of all, he's trying to point you to nature, which is God's slate. From there, with quiet meditation, the silence of nature. The last conversation I had with him was when I went to Honeywell that weekend before he passed. And he said, "I'm going to visit that Honeywell." He loved Honeywell, the trails and everything. I don't know how. Normally, if you are going on those narrow little things, hugging the hillside, you want to take somebody with you. Not Courtney. Courtney, one and God, going through that place. He knew every trail with ease. That was his slate. He learned, he appreciated the nature. He went into the silence. Him, one and God up there. He's good, I tell you. But, you know, he's non-judgmental. How many of us, no matter what, we still to some little silent conclusion in our heart? Not Courtney. People have leveled things at him, and Courtney will repeat and say quietly, "Suppose I was supposed to repeat that to her. She wouldn't like it, you know." That's Courtney. I think of this church, and when he's putting the chairs together, that is our constant argument. Because Reverend Suna says I'm to put space between the chairs, and Courtney feels that if you have a consciousness of God, you can heal anything and everything. So you know what I mean. So when the chairs go, when I'm gone, the chairs come silently back together, and we hold. We are near to one another, and you know, it's exhausting because you can't. Courtney will stand here and he'll watch every curve of these chairs. And when it's not straight, he'll put a piece of cord tight to every chair back and then he'll go over there and he'll look. He'll go over there and he looks. He goes from behind there, and it is exhausting, but that is Courtney's way, and we just left him with the chairs. I mean, he's just fantastic with his sense of detail, his learning. I mean, he read everything and anything that he could put his hand on. He quoted many philosophers, and I want to leave you with one that is only Courtney one could show me this, you know, believe me. He says, it's from Rumi. "Why are we struggling with each other? Why is one light running away from another light so much?" Friends, all Courtney wants us to do is let our lives shine with that intrinsic light of God that is within each one of us, and let the radiance go out to bless every community in this island, and indeed the very cosmos. So I say, cheers, Mr. Courtney. Cheers. Our first hymn. Yes, and it's a hymn that he likes, so you can read the words and you can smile. So please stand to the singing of "I Will."
I will
see the love offering is being taken up. Would you please have a seat while this is going on? And then we'll bless it together, and I'll do the prayer of release. While this is done, on behalf of the families and relatives of dear Courtney, we want to tell you thank you all for coming out and sharing in this wonderful consciousness, for the comfort and support given, the tributes made and the part each one played, and for the gifts that you are giving, which will fulfill the purpose for which it is given. God bless you all. Thank you. Just stand by this. Yeah, man. No, you keep it. Lovingly, just close your eyes for a second. And we just thank God for the providence, the beneficence that has allowed us to share time, talent, and treasure. We receive these gifts of love and know that each individual was given from their heart. This abundant goodness of God will indeed enrich your lives. And indeed, we know that these gifts that have come for the spread of truth will indeed allow the peace and joy that is God to just simply permeate the conscious awareness of our country and indeed the cosmos. And together we say, and so it is. Thanks, Mrs. Morrison. Will you please stand now for the prayer of release? This is our prayer that allows us to release Courtney to his next assignment. We speak this word for the soul of Courtney, to know that the Lord is his shepherd. He shall not want for life, light, or love. God's will for eternity maketh him to lie down in green pastures of abundant life. He is even now being led beside the still waters of peace. He is restored to an awareness of his true self and led in the pathway of his true nature. Yea, though he walks through the valley of the shadow, he will know it to be a shadow only, and will fear no evil. For the one omnipresence and power of God is even now with him to teach and guide him. God has already prepared for him his new expression. His knowing of this is complete, and his cup of good overflows. Surely goodness and loving kindness surrounds him now and forever. In the name of the Christ indwelling, with this word I now sever the bondages of earth's beliefs and possessive thoughts, and release the soul into the Father from which it came. And so it is. Amen.
So it is.
Just for a moment of silence. Just remember that beloved of ours, Courtney. Mm-hmm. And so it is. And let us sing, Great is Thy Faithfulness. And then we'll have our closing affirmative prayer.
Thou changest not thy compassion.
closing prayer, I know the family, and both the biological family and the church family, would like to say thank you to all those who have come and wish to have you join us for some refreshment after. So together we recognize that the love which is God, which so beautifully incarnated in our beloved Courtney, is that which has incarnated in each one of us individually, even as it has expressed itself as this service today, blessing us, filling us, charging us, and allowing us to leave here feeling, even though nostalgic, feeling that truly that which came into being as the life of Courtney was well worth living, and the memories of it lingers on in our hearts, blessing us as we remember and follow every little example which he has left with us, spreading love throughout our country, Jamaica, indeed the world. So truly as we leave here, we know that the love of God goes as us, ahead of us, and is ever around us, blessing, uplifting, cherishing each one of us. I give thanks that it is so, and so it is. So our recessional song, oh yes.
You can sit, please.
Could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you? Look at someone and let them tell them. Less than beautiful. How could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Yes, yes.
The peace of God that passeth all understanding is now with you all. Please join us for refreshments at the back.